Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for listening live or in the replay. This is Vlogust 2018. Vlogust is a time of the year where individuals that have podcasts or vlogs, they do a episode every single day. And so I show my dedication to the craft and the skill of trust as a trust consultant. Here at the Vault, we provide trustee training. Individuals that want to live their life where they own nothing, control everything, putting themselves in a position where they're tax avoidable, making sure that they can live just like the President of the United States in the current year of 2018. President of the United States, Donald Trump, said, "Hey, I don't have any personal tax returns to show." That literally means that he doesn't own anything. He's not owning any money. So the money that's coming to you, ladies and gentlemen, your personal tax liability can be avoided. Just like the President of the United States, just like Bill and Melinda Gates, just like Mark Zuckerberg, and all elite are operating from a position of own nothing, control everything. So today we're going to be talking about public REITs or public real estate investment trusts versus private REITs, private real estate investment trusts. So public REIT versus private REIT. The reason why we need to discuss this is because so many families lose wealth from one generation to the next because they don't have the proper vehicle to transfer wealth in. People say, oh, there's a wealth transfer going on. Is that one that you control? Or is that one that the government controls? Because if you don't have the proper vehicle in place, the government will control the wealth transfer for your family and others. How do they do that? They do that through a thing called probate. The estate that you have, the assets that you have accumulated over your life are now going through a process of being taxed because they were not in the proper vehicle. They were in a vehicle of intestate. That means there was no vehicle in place in the first place. So it is imperative for individuals to know this information so they can really participate in transferring wealth from one generation to the next. Thank you, B. Alexandra, for tuning in live. And everyone else, if you all want to say hi, I do appreciate the highs and the chats and the emails. So, I always have individuals ask me, well, who needs a trust? Who needs a real estate investment trust? Everyone. It puts you in a position of tax avoidance. But let's go a little bit deeper. Today we're talking about private real estate investment trust versus public real estate investment trust. So, a public real estate investment trust, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. A public real estate investment trust is regulated by legislation. I've had people contact me, or contact the vault, I should say, this week for doing these episodes that I've done for the real estate investment trust. And they say, oh, I have to have 100 people when I went to go and apply and all this good stuff. And I sat there and I said, they're talking legislative. See, because when you understand private real estate investment trust, you understand one thing. A private real estate investment trust is not regulated by the government. It's private. How is it private? It's because the United States honors people's right to contract. Article 1, Section 10, in part, says no state will impair the obligation of a contract. Well, guess what? A trust is a contract. And so is a real estate investment trust is a contract. So, the real estate investment trust on the private side are regulated by the contract because the contract makes the law. Now, on the public side, there are legislative rules that say how many members you have to have, how many trustees you have to have, what states you can be in, what all those different aspects, because the government is regulating the public. That's why it's called the public. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're familiar with contract and contract law, you immediately recognize and know that contract law is private law. So, contract law is private law. How does a private real estate investment trust work? It works just like this. There is a contract that is drafted without the government because it cannot be private if it's with the government. That is the difference, ladies and gentlemen. It cannot be private if it's under legislative rule. That's a fact, ladies and gentlemen. There is a quote unquote hidden society. They always call it a secret society. I'll share with you what a secret society is. It's a trust. When you go look up the definition in a legal dictionary of what a trust is, real estate investment trust or otherwise, it says a trust is a secret. You're right. Private real estate investment trusts are secrets. So you don't hear about how well they perform. You don't hear about people losing money. Why? Because it's private. Now, what are some of the protections of the public real estate investment trust? Well, you can go to a traditional bank, a traditional institution, a bank most likely, and or a company, and the company will be a public real estate investment trust, and they're going to issue shares and all of this good stuff. They're going to protect you. Why? Because the government is regulating the public. Remember? So since the SEC, Security Exchange Commission, because mortgages are traditionally inside of a real estate investment trust, they're going to regulate who you can sell those shares to, who you can sell the profits to. They have rules in place. You have to be an accredited investor. You have to be a qualified investor. These are rules that the public puts in place. They tell you how many members you have to have. Why? Because they are to protect people from avoiding another Great Depression. That is what the public real estate investment trusts are for. The private, the regulation is not there. So, you are able to convert and give away assets in a private scenario, whereas in a public scenario, it's going to be regulated a lot more. There's going to be the government poking its nose in your private affairs. So, it's rather important to look at it from many different angles. If you're going to try to participate in a wealth transfer, that means that you are going to know the rules to the game. The rules to the game of a private real estate investment trust are the contract. The rules to the game for a public real estate investment trust are the rules that the government and other elite that are in the government regulate to protect. Don't take this the wrong way. If you are a part of this class, it's your job to get out of this class. Middle and poor class people. They are to protect you. This is the same reason why the bank has a rule in place to ensure middle class and poor people that are making less than $250,000 a year, $250,000 a year, to protect them, and they insure that money. Where do you think rich people that have over $250,000 a year are putting their money if it's not insured after $250,000? They're participating in private investments, and particularly private real estate investment trust. That's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. The laws are different. Now, let's just say somebody says, well, somebody might type into the chat, and I am going to address any questions, so feel free to type any questions into the chat. What if somebody says, well, what if the government comes after you because you have this entity? It has to have a bank account. People put money in. They do disbursements. It's a business. Every business has a bank account. That's how money goes in and money comes out. It's simple. It's a business. Who regulates it? If it's not regulated by the government. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? This entity does have an EIN. It is a business entity. Don't be fooled by the fact that it's not regulated heavily by the government. It is a tax compliant entity. Why is it a tax compliant entity? Because it is a business. Any business that's done utilizing Federal Reserve notes in the United States or dollar bills in the United States will have to deal with a tax liability. But remember, taxes for a real estate investment trust are different than your own personal taxes. Would you agree? And what if you could avoid personal taxation, which is the worst taxation, and have assets inside of a private real estate investment trust where those assets can avoid taxation personally to you, but deal with business taxes. So I'll share with you, which I'm going to share continuously throughout the rest of this month. A trust can give away 100% of its tax liability to its beneficiary, net taxable income to its beneficiary, public or private. It's a trust, ladies and gentlemen. They say the owners of the trust assets are the beneficiaries. That's not in all cases. First of all trusts are not created equal. There's over 80 different types of trusts. I see where this philosophy comes from, that the owners, because they're in an equitable position, the beneficiaries in an equitable position, they're in a position where they feel because they have the use of the property that they actually own it. It's the law that you all have heard. You've heard the law before. What is it? Uh, Possession is 9/10 of the law. Possession is 9/10, right? Well, if possession is 9/10, what's the other 1%? That other 1/10 is the legal title. See, there's a difference between equitable and legal title. So, private real estate investment trust versus public real estate investment trust, the rules are different. And I just wanted to share some information with you all so you all can be aware that I've got a bunch of emails to the vault this past week. Our team has addressed all of them, and all of them have addressed the public versus the private aspect. People ask a lot of public questions. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If you're not involved in a private community, or if you don't have a private mentor, which we provide at the vault through private trustee training, then everything that you read on the internet applies to you. But when you understand contract law, when you utilize contract law, the contract makes the law, and contract law is private law, then you understand that there's a whole set of rules that you and your family will never be associated or privy to. And the way that you get privy to that information is by, once again, engaging with someone that has private information. Private real estate investment trust, a private mentor, or a private community. A trust is a secret. I'm going to address the first question that's typed into the chat. So thank you, Tracy Jackson, for tuning in live, and Jordan Tia for asking questions. Could the private real estate investment trust be set up as a foreign trust with a 9A number? Of course. Of course it can. 9A number is a number that may possibly be issued by the IRS. So I think that that's what you're referencing to, Tracy. And so yes, that's very possible. I share with trustees that private is synonymous with foreign in our community. Um, why is those are synonymous? It's like saying domestic is synonymous with public. You cannot take a domestic trust and operate internationally. You can't. Why? Because it's domestic. That means the United States created it. Here we go. Here's synonymous terms: public and domestic. So if it's foreign, it's automatically private. Whatever is done in the public or in a jurisdiction, it has to adhere to those rules, tax liability wise, with the money and all that good stuff. But foreign is synonymous with private. Public is synonymous with domestic. International is foreign, correct? You can't be foreign and international and not be that at the same time. You have to be foreign and international at the same time. So that alludes to privacy. You cannot be within a particular jurisdiction and retain certain private rights. And so when I say that you can't do that, it's very important to understand that when you go into a jurisdiction, you want to know what rules and regulations are there. And that means that you're in their public now. But as long as you are within a private jurisdiction, which means you're maintaining privacy, you're not setting up things under legislative rule, those things will be considered private until you do otherwise. Jordan Tia says, can you name a couple assets? I think I know what some are, just to be certain. Some assets. So when you, I'll share what real estate investment trusts are traditionally dealing with. They're always going. It's not just property. Some people think it's just real estate. It's not just real estate because real estate is a very vague term. Sometimes it's mortgages. Sometimes it's the actual land itself. So when people talk about real estate investment trusts and what's being held in these entities as far as assets, it could be even derivatives. When you look at a lot of the public real estate investment trusts, most of them are selling derivatives. They're selling, what the mortgage crisis just went through in 2008, 2009. They were selling derivatives. They were selling part of a mortgage. They weren't even selling full mortgages. So when they talk about the risk, I would much rather be involved in a private real estate investment trust than a public real estate investment trust operation. Why? Because public real estate investment trusts are making investments in things that are a lot more watered down. Whereas private real estate investment trusts, they possibly may take greater risks, but they also have a greater return. So the assets that they're investing in private situations, they have, in my opinion, even though the public, has all these regulations and all of that good stuff, the private, do you think private people are trying to lose clients? They're in the business of keeping clients. And that means that they're going to do what it takes to keep their clients. So in turn, sometimes you are going to see greater risk and things of that nature. So like I say, sometimes it is mortgages, sometimes it's land. Um, there's even insurances that are held on the properties are held inside of the real estate investment trust. Why? Because the trust is a person. The more assets that it holds, insurance, real estate insurances are assets. Insurance on property is an asset. Placing that under a person, such as a trust, a real estate investment trust, puts it in a stronger position, and it also separates assets from being able to be sued. Why? Because if you personally own something, you can be sued for it. Whereas a trust, if no one ever knows that property is being held inside of a trust, but they sue you, they'll never be able to come after that property. These are positions of asset protection and asset separation that you learn in the vault and private trustee training. So what if you could pass along and participate? So what if you could pass along and participate in a wealth transfer and eliminate tax liability, a probate tax, an estate tax, an inheritance tax to your children? All of those things are rather important, ladies and gentlemen. They say over 60% of the middle class is invested in real estate or holding real estate. That's what they consider their greatest asset, but they're not making money off it. They're holding it. I thought real estate was an investment. Everybody says, oh, get yourself a house so you can have an investment. People get it even for tax write off purposes, which means it's supposed to be a business because it's supposed to be a business expense. But how many people are set up with the correct vehicle to pass along that wealth? And passing it through a will may not cut it. So I'm just going to go ahead and take any questions or comments, any dialogue. But I really wanted to point out some of the differences between a public REIT versus a private REIT, real estate investment trust. Thank you, Barry, for tuning in live. Always appreciate you. And Amanda, thank you for tuning in live, listening, and appreciate you as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening to replay as well. Know that I do these episodes right now and they're pop-ups. No set time. Just, hey, we're alive and we're live streaming and we're moving forward with educating individuals about public real estate investment trust versus private. If you all would like a private consultation, you all can email the vault at christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, you can email the vault christian@trustchristian.com, and we'll make it a point to make sure that you can get in the proper vehicle and transfer wealth, because There is a private knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, that is being hidden from people. And then there's a public information that you can go on the internet and look at. I was actually looking at the SEC's website earlier because this is one of these institutions that or agencies that they look as though they're regulating the actual industry of real estate investment trusts, which they're not. There's actually a national North American real estate investment trusts like compliance committee and association and things like that. The SEC says we are not giving legal advice. They're not giving legal advice. So the SEC, which is a regulator, does not give legal advice for these entities. Why? Because they respect privacy. They're only letting you know that if you have a public entity, this is how it needs to be run. Privately, because it's a trust, it is contract law, which is private law. They cannot give legal advice. Why can't the government give legal advice? Because it's the public. Well, what about the private? The private is where you see competent counsel. So, just wanted to talk to you all about that. Thank you so much. We have one more question here. James Way says, is the concept of being a secured party creditor real and usable in the way trusts are used? Today we're talking about public real estate investment trusts versus private real estate investment trusts. So that will not be discussed. Thank you for your question. And so I encourage you all to continue looking into real estate investment trusts to transfer your wealth from one generation to the next and avoid those taxes that I've talked about this week or with the past episodes on real estate investment trusts because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm letting you know how elite and we operate. And it's not a position of superiority, it's a position of correct and proper standing. Why, see, there's a public education and there's a private education. The private one, you have to learn from a private mentor or a private community because contract law is private. Even family law is private. This information was supposed to be passed along to you. Contract law was supposed to be passed along to you through your family because family law is private. But in the United States right now, because it's a public, they are protecting people from their own ignorance and lack of due diligence when it comes to money and contracts. And that's all we deal in every single day. From the time that we are born, acquiring a birth certificate, going out and getting a social security number, and doing business in the public with a social security number, or individuals that come out into the public when they turn 18 and they start operating from a position of own nothing, control everything, because that's what they've been trained with their whole life from their family, and they understand contract law. What if you could put your family in that position to be able to pass along and protect your wealth from one generation to the next? You have that option. Christian at trustchristian.com. Appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. Peace and blessings. Talk to you all soon. Thank you so much for tuning in live.